Hey everybody, this is Brody from Brody's Garage. Today is October 26th. This is episode 67. Hey guys, welcome back. So if you remember when we left off in the last episode, I promised that I would finish the car by October 23rd, which marks the 3-year anniversary of when I began this godforsaken project, 67 Nova. Today is October 26th. To be fair, I gave myself a couple days of slack because I was out of town doing a show up in Ivins, Utah, at a wonderful place called the Tuacahn Amphitheater. I did my Zeppelin USA show. It's a Led Zeppelin tribute group, and I'm the singer for the show. The show went great. Just got back home. Of course, immediately got back to work. So the burning question is the car done? Well, the answer is fuck no. No, it's not done, and I don't think it's ever really going to be done. It's a lot closer though, and I'll tell you what, in the last 2 months, I've got a lot of things done. For starters, the car is running now. It's actually running and driving. I finished up the brake lines and bled the brakes a couple different times. Bled them once, had a leak, had to flush it again, bleed it again. Cooling system, fuel system, all the electrical back in the car. I've got almost all the electrical done and wiring. I have not yet hooked up my front headlights and turn signals, but I got the tail lights working, brake lights. The remote RFID wireless system for the key fob thing is still incomplete. As a matter of fact, there's something a little screwy with that right now, and I believe it's something to do with the brake switch because it's not supposed to start until you have the brake on. I think it might be either I got a couple wires crossed or the brake switch itself. There's 2 sets of terminals. One that's, I think, adds 12 volt positive, and one cuts the wiring when the brake is applied. And I think I might have it backwards. At any rate, the car does start. It does drive. In fact, I drove it today and got amazing shots over here at the park across the street from where we live. So you can be enjoying those now as I talk. The next item I started working on was the interior. And to be blunt about it, I started conversations with 2 reputable interior shops here in town. I won't name them, but suffice it to say that after much dialogue and setting up a time frame and a date to try to take the car down, to get carpet done and headliner and stuff, I was basically ghosted twice. And this is by one company, and then another one kind of started the whole process over again. And I guess they're just too busy for me is what it comes down to. So what happens when the phone doesn't get return phone calls? Well, I just take matters into my own hands. And so I just started working on the interior. I found a guy on Facebook, and I coerced him into coming over to the house and helping me put the headliner in. The headliner was already up in place, held up by the roll bar, but all the material was hanging down. So he helped me trim it off, glued it up in place. Got the headliner and the sail panels that go along the quarter roof back there. So that's in now. The big item that needs to be done with the interior is the carpet, because you can't just buy a carpet kit for this car. The transmission tunnel is way huge and modified, so it's got to be custom done. And besides that, I really kind of want that, at least I think I want that German square weave kind of tight loop fit, and I want all the pieces cut and sort of sewn together with the binding, around the edges. So that's the plan. I'm still in search of an upholstery shop. However, I found a guy, and I am tentatively scheduled for Monday, which is in a couple days, to take the car to him and drop it off to have the carpet started. We'll see how that goes. He's supposed to actually come by tomorrow and take a firm look at the car and give me a firm price on it. So wish me luck on that. In the meantime, I went ahead and I made myself some of the components that go up on the upper package tray there. I made that piece out of some 1/2-inch plywood. I had to make it in 3 sections to fit around the roll bar. While I was at it, I decided to go ahead and mount my speakers, which I did a couple different ways. The first time I was going to mount them on top of the tray, but The problem is I've got a roll bar that connects across the back there. That roll bar bridge spans right across the center line of the package tray. So my speaker magnets hang down too far and they would have hit. So my first plan was to put them on these little 1-inch risers to rise the speakers up high enough. And to be honest with you, it just looked like shit. So I scrapped that idea and I went back to my original thought, which thank you, Bob Kaminsky, for coming over and talking me into doing what I should have done all along, was making the speakers mount underneath and making some flush mount grill mesh inserts. Now the grills are a little bit further forward than I would like, again, to clear that center bar, but I kind of can live with it. And I've decided the way to sort of justify the negative space is to put a third brake light in that back package tray. The really cool thing is I watched a bunch of videos on making the mesh grill inserts, and you cut out your circle or your shape or whatever, and then you route that edge, you bevel it back, and then you get your mesh material, the steel or aluminum, whatever. I happen to have some aluminum mesh already here. And you make it and you put it in a mold and use a hydraulic press, and you have to go through all this stuff to make it. I just squished it with my foot on the floor here, and that's how I made mine. And they turned out pretty darn good, so I'm happy with those. My front dash pad here, as you can see, the roll bar goes right through the dash. So what did I do? I had to notch out the corners of my foam rubber dash pad. Well, I decided then that I wanted to extend the dash over to the corners here of the A-pillar. And how do I go about doing that? How do I add more material to that? Well, I went to a Hobby Lobby and I bought some craft foam, which is this stuff right here. It's pretty much just like the expandable foam you get in Home Depot, but it's maybe a proprietary blend, and it's white in color instead of yellow. This stuff kicks ass. It took me about 3 or 4 different applications and going back with a little die grinder and shaping it with like an 80 grit disc. Finally, I got it. And then at the end, I used this flex paste. I'm gonna show it to you. Flex paste. I gave that a coating on top of the styrofoam and to kind of seal it all together, and it remains flexible. And the reason it needs to stay flexible is because you have to get it in there and you have to kind of bend it around the bars. So the plan is to cover that in vinyl with a little white stitching to match my other TMI seats. I'll cover the package tray back there as well in vinyl. And then at that point, I can pop my rear seats in. Well, after the carpet is done, I can pop the seats in. And the interior is basically done. The only big item remaining is the center console, which has to be made and covered as well. So for the audio system, what I ended up doing is I made a little plywood panel, or a couple of panels actually, to go behind my rear seat to mount my subwoofer and my 4-channel amps for the stereo system. So we've got a pair of 6.5-inch speakers that go in the kick panel. And by the way, just like everything else, the custom, I think they're called custom audio sound, the plastic kick panels with the built-in speaker pods completely had to be cut and modified to fit around the roll bar. So I had to whack about half of that plastic off there. Those are in now. My plan for the little component tweeters, they're a 1-inch tweeter, and the TMI Products door panels has a sort of a provision for where the window crank would have gone. Well, I don't have window cranks because they're going to be power windows. So I think my plan is to put the tweeter right there where that sort of little swirl is in the door panel. In the back, we have a pair of 6x9s from Alpine. We have a pair of 8-inch subwoofers, which I bought a little cheap Amazon enclosure. It's a tiny little thing, and I'm limited on space back there, and I'm not really trying to win any awards with the stereo system. I just want something that's got a little punch to it. So I think those are going to work out great. It fits, it's great. I made a couple little wood blocks to secure it. I think I'm going to try to have something 3D printed to make it look a little cooler, or maybe a little billet aluminum piece. But yeah, the trunk is actually starting to come together. I got the amps in, I got the subwoofer in, I've got the package tray with the 6x9s back there. Window glass. Okay, so as soon as the headliner was up in place, that was all I was really waiting for. My buddy Andrew, who you've seen in past episodes, came over and did all that amazing TIG welding for me. He came over and we popped in the windshield together. So the two of us, non-pros, managed to get the windshield in, and it's the kind of thing where you got to put it in the rubber channel, put it in the car. One guy's got to be in the inside pulling the rope through the rubber channel to pull the lip over, while the other guy's on the outside pushing down. Sounds like some kind of a weird X-rated film, but it's nothing like that at all. Anyway, the one problem I still had is this piece of chrome trim here on the top does not quite follow the contour of the roof line. So I'm still monkeying with this. I've taken it back out. There's actually a metal channel that goes down in and kind of hooks into the rubber channel. It was a bitch to get it out, and so I ended up grinding off that lip, and so it's just going to kind of pop in, and I'll probably use some adhesive to hold it in place once I get it finalized, and I'll put the vertical pieces in. I just got the rear window glass in myself last night. I did this all by myself using a pair of suction handles to hang on to it, and I did do the polyurethane sealant all around the channel. You put some little primer around the border, which I masked off and made a 1-inch border. And then I put my urethane on there. Unfortunately, I kind of screwed up and I put the bead a little bit too far to the inside. I should have stuck it right on the very edge because a lot of the urethane kind of squeezed into the interior. I had to go in there and take a finger and kind of, once again, it sounds dirty, but it's really not. It's just urethane. Had to go in there and swipe a lot of that goop out of there. So, I don't know. It feels like the glass is in there pretty solid. I still got to put my chrome trim on the back here. I spent a lot of time last night knocking out some little dings and polishing that up, and I'll get the courage up to try to fiddle with that next. Okay, so a real quick overview of how I got my power windows working on the 67 Nova. These power windows come from a place called New Relics, and the only thing I would say that has been kind of a snag so far is I wish this would have come with a template, because you have to cut out some material here in the inner structure of the door. There's already a rectangular hole right down here, and the diagram that came with the kit shows kind of an approximate photo, and it says you have to cut out this area here, and it shows them cutting out this entire piece here. I later realized that on the opposite side, I only had to cut out that much to get the window motor to sit in there. But a quick summary here is you start off by trimming that area out. You mount your power window motor first, and there are 4 bolt holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. These holes were existing. This one had to be drilled, and the funny thing about it is it's kind of on an angle here. So you have to kind of get that drill just right. You also want to make sure that your bolts are just long enough to go through the threads and not any further, because otherwise they will start protruding into the arm that moves up and down. So you don't want to do that. So you start with the motor, and then you're going to next slide your front pair of tracks, which go like this, sort of an S shape. You're going to get this motor hooked up to some battery power and move the arm to about this position here, to where it's right in the center of this opening. You will take your front pair of tracks, feed it up in there, and then over and around the back side of the window arm. You're going to put your top 2 bolts in right there and your bottom 2 right there. You can see the bottom part of the track right there. There we go. So once you get those 2 in there, then you will put your window down in there, and the window at this point has already got the metal channel across it with the lower roller, and I tape mine up to protect it. Also a note, you're going to want to make sure that this window fuzzy and the outer stainless trim are off the car, because you're not going to be able to get the window with the rollers and everything down in there with this stuff on there. So this guy goes down in, and the first thing you'll do is put the window arm roller in first into the horizontal channel. Then you're going to work it up and down until you can fish these rollers into the front pair of channels. And then third and final step will be to install the rear track here. You slide that up in there, and then these 2 studs go through these holes here. Now on my car, I don't know why this is, maybe it has something to do with the wheel tubs, but I had to trim the bottom end of this track down, like, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of an inch or so, because otherwise it was hitting the wheel tub here. You can see there, it's almost right up against it now. Well, it was protruding so far down that it wouldn't even go in there before until I trimmed that down. And the funny thing is, even though these are modified wheel tubs, the only modification is on this side. As far as I know, this is all factory sheet metal, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But at any rate, I got this one working. This is the one of 4 that I have working right now, and I don't have a demonstration available because I took the battery cable and stuff out. But it does go up and down. The only thing I have to look into is to see if there's a way to sort of set a stop limiter from the up and down positions. Otherwise, the motor just wants to, and it's got a high torque motor in it, it just wants to keep forcing the window all the way up or down. And I'm afraid I'm going to put something into a bind or break it. So that's my only next step, is I need to figure that out. But otherwise, I have to say I'm pretty happy with it. Here's what it looks like from the outside with the trim back in place. You know, once you get it in there, you can roll the window all the way down and you can get this trim back on, put the screws in, and put the window fuzzy back in. So I've got 1, 2, 3 more power windows to do, and my vent window assemblies as well. So I'm not looking forward to that. But at any rate, that's how you do the New Relics power windows. I also want to point out that I finished my lower steering column support. That's a thing that I made. Had the backing plate made on Send Cut Send, and bought the tubing, and it had my friend Andrew Rees do that nice little TIG weld for me. Then I just sprayed it with some black satin paint. And on the inside of the car, there's the other side, another plate with bolts and nuts going through. So at this point, and I hate to do this to you and to myself, to try to put any kind of deadlines on things, because as you know, they never seem to pan out. I would estimate that if I were to have, you know, a pretty wide open schedule and be able to work on the car every day, I probably got another month or 2 worth of work. In reality, it's probably going to be 6 months. And I know there'll always be fine details to do to this car. One thing I have to deal with that I have not yet dealt with is on the front window glass here. I have yet to insert my door glass and my vent windows. And I'm already expecting there's going to be some problems, because another guy that I know online bought a real deal steel body Nova, and he did the power windows as well. And he had to end up custom cutting a piece of side glass for his windows. They didn't fit. I don't know if they were too long or something like that. So I'm already just anticipating I'm going to have some problems with the side glass. We shall see. Maybe I'll get lucky. At any rate, is the car done? No. Is it close? It's pretty darn close. I mean, it looks like a car. It's fairly complete. I took it across to the park today just to get some pictures and video of it, and I was stopped 4 times by couples walking by that just wanted to talk about the car. So there's no question the car is going to get a lot of attention when it's out there in the public. I was tempted to take it to the Cars and Coffee today, and I actually came out here with the intent of doing so, and I started it. It would not start. The battery was dead. I had to charge the battery. I got it to turn over and it wouldn't fire. This is after I replaced the injectors last night, so I don't know if it just needed to prime the fuel lines more, or what it was, or maybe it was actually out of gas. I went and picked up more gas, some E85, put 5 gallons in, came home, battery was charged, fired right up. So I took it out for a little jaunt around the neighborhood, and you know, it's got plenty of bugs still that need to be worked out. The rattling of the exhaust, number one, got to fix that. It's completely annoying. Finish this interior, which is a big step. Finish the glass. And then it's kind of a small list of just a lot of little dumb things, electrical things. But I'm not too worried about it at this point. All I can tell you is when I see the car out, and I've popped the seats in and out a couple times, and seeing this charcoal gray interior against the orange, it's exactly what I wanted. I've thought about this a lot. How many times I went back and forth with the color choice on this car, and I finally settled on the Tangelo Pearl. And as difficult as it was, and as many setbacks as I had with the paint job, I really couldn't be happier with the way the car looks. I have no regrets about the color choice. In fact, I'm just more and more confirmed that I'm on the right path with the vision I have for this car. I've been to many car shows, and I don't see anything out there that I'm really jealous of. And I know that sounds selfish or conceited to say. It's not that I haven't seen a ton of amazing builds that are far more perfect than mine, but just the way mine is sitting, it's me. This car is just me 100%. So I'm thrilled with it. To answer some previous questions, will I just stop doing the channel? No, I never really intended to be done to it. I just meant I was going to try to get the car done by October 23rd. and that would be my final episode of the build. But I plan to continue doing episodes of me out with the car at car shows and events. Maybe there'll be another project down the road. The wife kind of wants a 69 Camaro. Do I have it in me to do another build? I really don't know. And if I did do it over again, would I do it in a garage? I really don't know. That's been the biggest challenge of this thing, is doing it in such a confined space. I mean, this garage, I take time out every 2 or 3 days and I go, okay, I can't do any more until I clean up. I take everything out. I put all the tools away. I clean the counters, put all the stuff away. Okay, good. I've got a fresh start. Let's work on this today. And within an hour, 75 tools are out, and parts and chemicals and rags, and just, man, it just accumulates so quickly. That being said, I think there's an immense amount of pride that comes with doing something of this magnitude, mostly by yourself in a very confined space, and being able to say that you did it. And so it's that determination, that will, that keeps me going. And in spite of all the setbacks, I'm really close. And even though I still get frustrated, like I still got this to do and this to do, I look at it and I go, man, how far I've come with this thing. And when I do hear about other people's stories and how long it takes, some of these guys are 7, 10, 12, 15 years and they're still not done, or they got it done but in a much longer time. So I have been kicking ass on this thing. I work on it. Ask my wife. I work on it every single moment that I can. So if any of you are out there contemplating doing something like this that you've never done before, just know, no matter how diligent you are with your spreadsheet and your budgets and your itemized bullet point receipts and all this stuff, whatever you think you're going to spend on the car, just triple that. Whatever amount of time you think it's going to take you, just triple that. And, the heartache and everything else that goes along with it. The only thing I can say is the little bits of time that I've had the car out of the garage and out in public, it's already reaping the rewards. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's screaming out for attention. And if I get the thing dialed in performance-wise and tuned right, I think it's going to scream down the quarter mile too. I do intend to take it to the strip. I do intend to get a time slip on this thing. I do intend to take it to some car shows, and maybe I'll win some trophies, or maybe I won't, but I am proud of it. I'm proud of the work that's been done. I'm very thankful for the bit of help that I've got from my neighbors, from Al Nakata, helping me with the body work, from Andrew doing all the great TIG welding for me, my neighbor Garrett, and mostly my wife for just allowing me to do this insane project here at home. So with that said, I'll leave you with another final look at the car, and of course, check back for episode 68. I hate saying that. It should have been 67, but you know what? It might be 167. Till then, take care.